Hey everybody, back again today with the Shocker from Spider-Man, and we're going to knock this one out real quick. It is a modified version though. I put a helmet on him, which you can't see just yet, but it'll show up in a minute. Sorry, getting a drink there so we don't have a faux pas with the bottle on the table. So, going to get right to it. I modernized him just a little bit because of the style that I prefer to draw him in. This is still the classic costume, but there's a variation where I did some work back in the 90s, the late 90s, mind you. It was 98 or 99, right around in there. And I put this soundproof helmet on him for a while. And it never saw publication, unfortunately, but it was fun to do, and I just really liked that incarnation. So here we go. I always hated him wearing those little earmuff things because he used to have these little cones on his head like this now, but it just seems more practical to me for him to have a helmet. So that's why I did it. And they liked it, so cool. Whatever works. But, yeah, like I said, unfortunately, the work never went anywhere, but it was fun to do when I had it. That is the way of the trade. So, we've got the mask knocked out there. I'm going to go ahead and do the energy here around it because I don't want that to get overlapped. Just want to knock that out real quick. This poor guy right here has been knocked out so many times by so many heroes working with Spider-Man as much as he has by Spider-Man himself. Back in the mid-90s when everybody was doing the cartoony style and everything was crossover this, crossover that, this character was even put into the Sinister Six for a little while. And whenever he was there, all the other heroes that teamed up with Spider-Man would just thump him around like a ragdoll. It was sad. Especially since, you know, his energy weapons come from the same vibranium that Cap's shield is made from. You'd think they'd be of sterner stuff, but he didn't use them as defensive weapons, though. He used them as an aggressor in most cases, which is a disappointment, but it is what it is. So hopefully the movie coming up, Spider-Man Homecoming, will revitalize him. I know they've changed the character to a young black man, which is fine by me. I don't modernize it however you want to. I don't care. As long as the characteristics of the character are still maintained, I'm good with it. So we'll see what happens with it. One of the strange things about Homecoming is the fact that, we've got to face the idea that the shocker is also one of the students going to the homecoming game. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that. But we're getting along, knocking these energy markers out. And now we're going to be able to get into this character a little bit more. And before I do all the fine tuning with the costume itself, I'm gonna, before I do all the crossing and whatnot, I'm gonna go ahead and shape this out so we can see what's going on with him. And see the body of the costume. Because we won't get to see a lot of that through the energy markers here. We'll get to see the outline, but we won't get to see quite as much of the coloration. And the funny thing is, I had it pointed out to me when I was sharing this card for the upcoming live that we're doing now. Whenever I was spreading the word, I had an artist buddy of mine that's really into the classic stuff, and it was crazy because I didn't even realize it. But the shocker originally had buttons on the side of these hand pieces. I don't want to call them gauntlets because they're not, but these handles right here are exactly spot on for what the old style was, which is, it goes around like brass knuckles through his hand. But what people don't realize is there's actually a push button right here. He didn't wrap his thumbs around like the modern incarnation shows, which is what I actually know and followed. I didn't check up on that and didn't think about it, but the classic Spider-Man stuff, I actually looked it up afterward and right before I went live, and it showed that he had buttons that he triggered right here for that. I was like, okay, news to me. So I learned something today, and hopefully you guys did too. But I'll get picked on about that later because I'm kind of a comic history buff, or considering myself that anyway, because I studied just about everything possible, and I never knew that. So they got one over on me. Everybody's popping on. It's like, this one's random. You didn't tell us it was happening. So, a little late in the day for me to be posting this stuff, but it works out. I had to wait for Facebook. Live was a little grumpy and acting a little weird on me when I signed on, so I reset and then signed on again, and yeah, now it's working fine. So just had to wait for it. You know, being summertime and stuff, I have to modify the approach a little bit, make sure everything's still peachy and not overloaded. But that all worked out. We're all here. And this is getting fleshed out really quick, surprisingly. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make this run this way or not. But like I said yesterday, if you saw the Scorpion piece, I've done this character, at least a few hundred times. And I wish I could show those panels, but unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to show that. So, like I said, it is what it is. And primarily the reason I won't show them is because I'm hanging on to the story. But because I also wrote the script that I submitted. And like I said, got into the editorial process and just didn't make it. So that happens in the industry. Things get flipped all the time. But that works out the way it's supposed to. So bear with me here. Rotating this card, gonna make everybody dizzy. I get griped at by people all the time when I draw this because I put this huge, thick belt on him. And everybody's like, well, why do you do that? That's ridiculous. It's huge. But I do that because of the fact that the character has battery packs in here. And this is what fuels the energy charge to the vibranium and makes it react. At least that's what it was originally. I don't know any modern incarnations. I don't know what they're going to do, but for me, it was all about the battery packs because he used to have a battery source like Iron Man used to have battery packs on his hips. Dare I say, back in the day, he used to carry disc on his hips. But this used to be a battery pack. And he used to run wires through his suit, is what they would say. So, we have that. And I also never got why he had the V on his belt buckle. I always thought that was strange, but there it is nonetheless. It is a trademark V that the Shocker has always had. Of course, I guess it would look even stranger if it was like cheesy, like an S or something, you know, for Shocker. So, I guess that works out. So, I'm going to go to the edges of this helmet like this. And to give a little more detail, I'm going to pop these out this way. I'm not going to give the big open eye patches on the mask where you can actually see his eyes or anything like that. I think I'm just going to go with the later rendition from the 80s, which has the white eyes, and we'll go from there. And I want to be sure to keep these lines as smooth as possible. But they do shift a little bit because he's actually wearing the suit. And normally they would shift for the fabric, but this character never does. They always, it's kind of a quilted thing, and it always seems to draw just straight lines. Artists just go at it like that, and I'm no different. I mean, if this was a comic panel page kind of thing, I would be a lot more detailed and aggressive with this. But since it's just a sketch card, I'm going to knock it out and leave that open. And I want to do those chest marks like this. I'm going to shade it out underneath that neck there, so we won't have to bother with that. Carry that right down into the ribs, which are right there. Get the obliques over here. In this suit, they don't quite show up like that. So and I don't know if you guys, any of the artists on here are not do this. I tend to make the abdominals a little different shapes because of the fact that some of them, not many people have a perfect six-pack. They clutch down different because they're individual balls of muscle in there, and they shape out different. And a lot of people go straight down and make a wall of abs. You know, it's just like boom, a washboard. But it's not. Most humans don't have. I don't know if you want to call it asymmetrical or not, but they don't have identical abs. It goes off from different angles and stuff, and you just got to go by the individual. A lot of people don't do that. But if you want to make the character look a little more organic, a little more different, keep that in mind. You know, change them up. Make them look a little different so you can go off of that and say, okay, this is the way I want to do the character and the way that I want him to look or her to look, and I'm going to do the abs a little different. It's okay to do that. Setting my line premise here so we can get that all in. Because of the way those ribs flex, I'm going to put that down there just a little bit. I didn't do that up on the chest, but I definitely want to do that here. It's going to make the card a little busy, but it'll still work. There we go. Now I'm going to start shading this in a little bit. I'm going to put in that other shoulder first. Sorry, my allergies are acting up awful today. This is going to be the forearm where the vibranium is right here. So this is going to be yellow back here from the shoulder and the bicep right here. So I'm going to have to sketch that out. Line that a little bit for you. Go off and do the same thing on this other arm. I know I keep spinning this thing like crazy on this one. The replay is going to be round and round we go. The merry-go-round card. Let's see. We've got him knocked out there. I'm going to put a little more of a shadow under that nose there, just because I think it looks interesting. But I'm going to shadow underneath this neck here, like I said, and start filling this out just a little bit. So make him pop a little more. Now this is in the energy burst right here, so I don't know if you guys can see that with all the penciling or not, but it goes around here. There's kind of an electrical look right around here in that bubble that I mapped out in the beginning. So we got to watch that and make sure that we don't cross over it too much and over detail behind that, because we don't want to shade that in because it'll make it look really, really cluttered up. And besides, the energy is not going to have black burst through it. Otherwise, it's going to look really, really strange, and I don't want to do that. So that's going to be the shoulder here. Going to nick in behind and put some of this shadow and color in here. I always like to fill this in and then give him highlights with the brown or the red or whatever you want to color him with. That way, it just makes it pop off a little harder and makes him look a little darker without having to mess with it too much. But again, that comes with whatever you decide to color him with and how you want to make it. For me, I like doing that because then I go in with the brown and it's got a nice dark, evil leer to it. Some people see that and they start squawking, hey, you got to give it some color. It's not a black suit. Well, that's okay. But it is supposed to be an insulated leather suit. So, I like to have a little fun with that. And not to mention it makes the black card look better. The black and white version of the card look better. So, because a lot of editors are hard about that, and they say, well, even though it's in color, you got to shadow that stuff down because it's not light reflective. So, what are you going to listen to? You got to go with the boss, right? So, I know I'm taking a little more time than usual and putting this in manually here, but the thing is, you're going to make it look right, make it pop off the way it's supposed to. Take care of this look here. Alright, now I got this widow's peak thing that's coming down underneath the point of the helmet here. And again, that's of the same costume. And what we do is we put a little ridge right here to show that a little dimension. And we don't have to mess with that too much. And this ridge right here, put in a few lines like this to pop off that undershot. Blah, 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 blah. Stuttered! So, keeping it very light. And it doesn't even have to be even because these are modified a little bit because this is a curve. So they can go around like that just a little bit. And they still look alright. So we've got that in place. Now, with his glove, I'm going to be very careful here and very cautious about this. Because, like I said, I want to do the one side, not the whole thing, and make it look weird. I don't want to end up with a big black blob on there going, with people looking at it going, what is that? So, just going to do one side of each hand here. Make it show a little color and a little pop off, and that's it. And behind the energy, now the funny thing is, behind the energy, that's one thing, but this is coming from the energy source, which is these gauntlets that he's got on, which come primarily from this knuckle ring, so he can project it. So making it blacked out gives it that look of a silhouette being underneath the light, which is actually a good thing. You just don't want to go do that in every regard. Like this, if you black this out, it'll look weird. But since this is within the light it's producing, it makes it actually look different. So you don't have to worry about that, and that's the reason I'm blacking this out. Think about it when you see like a character like Electro, or even Iron Man. Sometimes the light will be blocked out from his hands because of the fact that he's pumping out that much energy. And it's not refractive, and it's engulfing it, so there you go. It's just a matter of choice, what you like to see or not. For me, I know he's in there. I'm going to do these knuckles first. But I know he's engulfed in the power, so that's one of those things where you can black that out a little bit. And it's okay. Where if it's behind it, you don't want to do that because you're going to see the light energy first. And that's where the shadow gets messed up. A lot of people make that mistake and shadow out behind the energy burst, and you don't want to do that because then what you do is you end up blinding it out and it doesn't look reflective or like it's outside of the light, but it looks like it's engulfed as well, which will make people lose the illusion. It'll break the illusion of the comic. So you guys can study light and dark and figure more of that out. I don't need to tell you what's going on there. You can study comic book shading and figure that out. I might do a lesson video on that one day. Never know. So, knocking these out very quickly here. I'm trying to be careful here because these are the underside of the knuckles, and that's the top bend, which comes down behind here. So we want to leave just a little bit of light right there to show the bends on those knuckles. I don't want anybody to look at it and go, well, what's that on that side of that hand? Okay. Now I'm going to detail out this belt just a little bit more. Put a couple of shiny spots on there. And metallic shadows, that kind of thing. And each piece is going to be different. So now we have the shocker. I hope you guys dig it. Hey Gavin, didn't see you join there, buddy. That's Gavin, my nephew. So we have this little bit down here to where his suit is still brown down here, so I'm going to finish this up. That I don't want to leave hanging open. There's a little bit of the yellow that runs down through here, so I'll rib that like that. But I want to leave a couple of these little highlights right here, and then I'm going to step out of that and call it done for the day, because I took a little more time on this one than I normally do, but just wanted to let you guys have the the full exposure. So we have the shocker. I'll link this one up and color it and add it on. I've got a few that I've got to add up and catch up on the daily postings because I've got them finished, but like I said, I haven't gotten to post them yet because I've been a little behind on that. I apologize, but yeah, I'll get them all caught up and post the finals so you guys can see the images, and we'll catch you next time. Tomorrow I have Mr. Freeze from DC Comics Batman coming up, so that's another day, another run. Thanks for joining me, and I appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Check out the new YouTube channel under my name. You can look me up on Brad Linder Comics over there, or Creating Comics. That channel's getting a lot of these original videos posted over there, and I'm posting a lot of new and unique content over there as well this week. So if you get a chance and want to check something out, go for it. If not, that's fine too. It's completely up to you. Nothing to pitch, nothing to sell, that kind of thing. Just hanging out and having a good time and showing you guys what I got going. I appreciate it. Thanks.